Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ask the Experts. Today we'll be talking about the finance module. Today on the call with you today we have myself, Liz Colon. I'm a senior education consultant here at FranConnect, and you have Joe Reist, who's one of our project managers here at FranConnect. We'll be talking you through any questions that you have on the finance module today. As with all of our other lessons or Ask the Experts, you can ask anything that you'd like. If you are joining us via phone, you can simply ask your question by raising your hand on your mobile phone, which looks a little bit like this circular icon right here. You can also ask your question via chat at any time, and you can send those questions to us via the chat box. If you have your little toolbar up, the chat box looks like a little message bubble you might see in a comic strip. So if you click on that, you can go ahead and place your question into the chat box, and Joe and I will be happy to answer those questions for you. So first, what we're going to do during Ask the Expert today is we're going to talk about our topic of the week. So Joe has a brief overview of finance, or some things that he'd like to talk to you about with finance to start off the lesson. Then we'll open up the floor for questions. And again, the questions can be about the finance module or about any of the modules in the FranConnect system. We'd be happy to answer those questions. If you think of any questions during the week, we'd be happy to answer those and save them for the next lesson as well. You can send those over to training@franconnect.com. And last but not least, these are the remaining session topics we have through the middle of December. You're free to join us on any of these to discuss any of these modules and any other questions that may come up. As of right now, I'm going to go ahead and hand over the reins to Joe. It'll take just a moment for me to go ahead and do that. And while I'm doing that, feel free to chat us any of the questions that you have. If you chat them in now, then we can go ahead and prepare them when Joe is finished.
All right, thanks a lot, Liz. I'll go ahead and show my screen here. I'm just going to start off, just give a quick overview of how the financial information flows through the finance module, from getting in the initial data to how royalties get calculated to how you can actually collect those funds afterwards. Starting off here, we have just our home screen, and this just gives you an overall view of your location's financial performance. So nothing to input on this screen, just some graphs and some charts to give you the overall performance year over year of your locations. But the next tab here that we have in finance is the sales, and this is going to be the first step in the process. It's where the sales reports get entered, and those are typically on a periodic basis, whether that be daily, weekly, monthly. And there's quite a few different ways you can get the sales reports in. The most basic way is just with a web form, which is how it is set up at the moment, where either corporate or the franchisee can come in, choose their location in the reporting period, in this case September 2016, and then they could just enter in the amounts that they sold for each of the categories, any services. Oops. And then oftentimes there's KPIs, or key performance indicators, maybe the number of new customers or the number of eClub signups for that month. And then any additional fees, IT fees, operations fees that might be in there. And down here we can see our non-financial categories. Finally, maybe you want the actual raw data for the sales that month, some kind of printout from their POS system. You can also ask if they upload that as part of the sales report. And then you can hit save. Attest that it is correct. And then you'll have your sales report in the system. So a few of the other ways besides a web form that you can get the sales data in, you can upload it in a CSV or a Excel format. So if you get a complete listing of all of your locations' sales for the month of the week, you can upload that into the system for them. And then oftentimes a popular way to get the data in seamlessly is with a POS integration. So that's where your point of sale system will send out a file on a regular basis, which PrintConnect will have a script. Will go ahead and grab that file, upload the sales data into the system, and create these sales reports automatically. So once we have our sales report in here, the next step is to figure out how much royalty or advertising or the fees that that the franchisee will be paying for that period, and that occurs with what we refer to as agreement versions in PrintConnect, and that's a listing of the rules that applies. So, maybe they just pay a flat 5% franchising fee every week on their net sales, but oftentimes there's complex rules where maybe they pay 5% up until they hit 50,000 in sales, and then between 50 and 100 it bumps down to 4%, and then anything over 100,000 it goes down to 3%. And within PrintConnect, you have the ability to set up those agreement versions and those rules as needed. It's a pretty robust set of logic and different settings that you can apply, and you can group stores into different agreement versions. So you don't have to have one per store. You could, maybe there's 10 stores all in the same agreement. You can lump those together, and they'll all calculate royalties the same way. So we take the information that was entered under sales, apply it to our agreement versions that are set up, and that'll produce the royalty invoice, which is on the royalties tab. And that'll actually show how much royalty, advertising, as well as additional fees that the franchisee would owe for that particular period. There's also a payment status here, so you could tell whether or not the invoice has been paid, partially paid, or whether it's still unpaid. You can apply payments. Let's say that they're still sending in checks or credit card payments, every month. You can come in here and apply a payment in order to mark the invoice as paid. But alternatively, we also offer the ability to electronically transfer those funds via a bank. So what we will produce here is called a NACHA file, N-A-C-H-A. And that's just a small file that basically says how much money to take out of each of the franchisee's accounts and transfer to the corporate account. And you could do that separately for the royalty and the advertising, so you can keep those separate. And then once you go ahead and confirm that all the transactions went through, you can process that NACHA file and mark all of the invoices that are rolled up into it as paid at once. So that's a nice automated way to manage the royalty invoices for a particular period. So that's kind of how the sales data transfers throughout the finance module. Comes in as a sales report, takes the agreement version to apply some logic on how much royalty should be paid, and that creates the invoice under royalties. And then you could track the payments against those royalty invoices either manually or by using the EFT transactions functionality. One other thing I wanted to point out is the store summary, and this is a great way to get a snapshot store by store. It can be used as a coaching tool, allows them to compare their location against others, across the brand as a whole, if you take a look at the dashboard. And it also, if you wanted to compare against their different regions, it can break down that way as well, regional sales, all sales. So they kind of see where they rank overall. And that's good to have, one-on-one meetings, look at their performance, maybe opportunities where they might be able to improve. And you also get the revenue mix over here, so you can see which categories are kind of the big ones and which ones, maybe are lagging behind. All right, we got a question here from Brian. Can the invoices be exported to QuickBooks? No, not at this time. Right now, the invoices are just in a PDF format. They could be downloaded, or they could be viewed within the system. Oops, went to the location. So we could view it in a PDF, or they could view it in the system here, but they are not exportable to QuickBooks.
So there's another
Right.
question on the line, Joe, that says they have one organization has two different additional fees. Is there a way to have two different additional fees here in the system as well?
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely doable. You can set up as many of those fees as you'd like. On my screen here, I'm showing for this example invoice, there's an IT fee, marketing fee, operations, as well as support. So you can set all of those and also set a default value, and you can allow that to be changed or not. You know, if it's going to be a fixed fee every month, you can just lock that in and not let the fee be changed, which I think Linda just asked, does the fee have to be fixed? No, it doesn't. You can allow that to be fillable by the franchisee if you'd like, or by corporate.
So the question also is, what if it's different for every state based on taxes?
Based on taxes, there's no rules in the agreement version to calculate that. That would just have to be something that would be calculated manually and then entered into the report. Or if you were doing an Excel upload or a POS integration, you can have that calculated outside of FranConnect and just send over the file with the correct amount, and that's the amount that will be entered for that additional invoice item.
I do also see that I've got a hand raised by Karen Jones. So Karen, I'm going to go ahead and unmute your line and let you ask any questions that you may have. And you're unmuted, Karen. Although you are muted yourself. So if you have questions, you can unmute yourself as well. Okay, feel free to continue to chat us your questions. We're happy to answer any of those questions that you may have for us here on the line. So feel free to continue to chat us your questions here. So the next question that came on the line, Joe, is how do you upload the fees?
Sure. So the fees get uploaded as part of the sales report. So you would enter those fees at the same time as you enter the net sales or the additional invoice items. So if I choose a store here, with every sales report, there is the option to enter in the fees here. So, you know, you don't have to do them every time. If you're collecting royalties weekly, but you only collect these fees once a month, then you would just enter the fees once out of the 4 invoices for that month. So for example here, you know, let's say operations is collected every time. You could leave it as is, and it'll automatically get collected as part of the invoice. So we have another question here, is the way to memorize fees for each location so you don't have to enter it weekly. Unfortunately, the preset values are going to be applied across the board, so it won't be location by location, but it'll be applied to all locations across the board. And we could take a look at that on the admin page if you'd like. So I'm going to come down here to configure additional invoice items. We can add a new one in here. Oops. So let's call this one training fee. And you can enter the default amount, let's say 150. And then finally, fixed or variable. Fixed obviously won't let it be changed. Variable will keep that default amount, but allow it to be updated if needed. And we'll hit save. So now whenever a new invoice is put in, we'll see the training fee with a default value of 150, but can be updated if needed.
These are all great questions that you're sending us, so continue to do so. We're just 20 minutes into the call, so we'd love for you to continue asking some of those questions so we can continue to answer these for you and provide any insight that we can to the finance module here today.
So we have another question from Linda. Is there a way to report sales monthly instead of weekly? Yeah, absolutely. So one of the options that is available on the admin page that'll kind of dictate the timing for those reports when they will be due to be entered into the system can be found under this first link in the finance section called Finance Setup Preferences. And there's a section here for royalty reporting frequencies, which can be changed, and you can have it be multiple different frequencies if you needed. You know, maybe one store's on a weekly agreement, one store's on a monthly. You can have both, but if you just wanted to have one, then you could just have it be monthly if desired, and that way all stores will just be entering their sales once a month. You're welcome, Linda. Oh, I didn't even see Linda's follow-up question, but that's basically what she asked, is can you split them weekly and monthly? And yep, absolutely. And jumping over, I'll show you guys the agreement version screen since I referenced that earlier. Once again, admin down in the finance section. The link right next to the finance setup preferences is agreement versions. You can see we already have some entered in here, but I'll go ahead and just enter or go through adding a new one. So you give a start and a date for it. For this one, I'm just going to make it really short just for speed purposes. But for the agreement, you can decide, is it going to be for weekly or monthly reporting stores? So you could decide which frequency the agreement will belong to. In this case, we'll just make it monthly. And then down here at the bottom is where you would decide the percentages. You can make it flat, percentage, or rule-based. Rule-based is going to be those more complex situations that I mentioned earlier. Maybe it's based on the amount of revenue the location has brought in. Maybe it's the amount of time the location has been open. Maybe they get charged royalty, and I know this is true in the services industry, based off the different types of services they offer out of their location, carpet cleaning or HVAC repair. You know, maybe they have different rates for the type of services provided. So those would all fall under rule-based. I'm just going to do a flat percentage here, call it 5%. And then for advertising, same deal. You can make it flat, a percentage, or rule-based. And we'll say that one's 2%. And then you can also have caps for max and min. So maybe they need to at least pay $500 every month. No max. But let's say for advertising, there's no minimum, but at most they're going to pay us $1,000. So we can go ahead and save that. And then we have our new 5/2% agreement version in the system, and we can associate that with the locations that would belong to that agreement based off of, you know, what they negotiated during the franchise sales process. All right. Any additional questions about any agreements? How the financial module works? What are the best ways to possibly set up your process in there?
We'll give it about 5 more minutes on the call here today if you have your questions. I know it's scheduled for an hour, but if we don't have any more questions on the line, then we'll allow everyone to get about half hour of their Friday back. So there is a question coming up in the line, so let me go ahead and read that. Can agreement rules use a logical test like if this, then that?
That's a bit difficult to answer without specifics. There are some rules that will allow that. So, for example, the category or subcategory based, if it is category A, then charge this percentage. If it's category B, then charge, the higher or lower percentage for that category. It might help if we knew what you were looking to use for the for kind of the deciding factor on what the variable will be. If the store is under 1 year, then use this rate. If the store is 1 to 2 years, use the next rate.
Amy, can you share some more details? Would it be helpful if we unmuted your line so we could talk about it verbally?
All right, so they pay a flat fee until the sales are cumulatively at a certain point. Then after that, for the year, they pay the flat fee plus the royalty. That is a complex one. I don't know if I can answer that off the top of my head. I'd have to sit here and play with these rules for a little bit to find the right one or the right combination of rules to use in that case. So yeah, Amy, we'll take that one offline and do some digging for you, and we'll reach out afterwards sometime next week to let you know if that's possible in the system, and if so, what the best way would be.
So Amy, just an additional point on that, in the last year that I've been with FranConnect, we've made a lot of additions to this rules area, so there's a lot of potential, just taking it offline for us to see if that'll work. And then Stacy's asking Joe if there are plans to develop any type of integration with QuickBooks, and that's really a great question. We sat internally today and had a walkthrough of the Orion release that's coming in the next few months, and there will be some QuickBooks integration that's coming down the pike. And obviously with the Sky platform being a SaaS platform, we have a lot of ability to continue to develop those types of integrations as we move forward. So yes, it's coming and it's on the roadmap, so there's hope there.
So I think I found how Amy's question would work. So I'm going to add an agreement rule here for sales amount based. So we could set up the ranges here. Let's say they pay a flat fee, let's say up until you get to 10,000. And then we'll add in another one. So 0 to 20,000. Let's say they pay 0%. 20,000 to 50. Let's say it's 3, and then 50,000 above. Let's say it's 5. Let's say it's cumulative. So now when we set up the agreement version with this, Amy, We can have it be the flat fee that they're always going to pay. Let's say it's $1,000. Oh, I'm sorry. We need to be rule based. We'll use our example. And the only thing I'm not sure on here is how to put the flat fee that they pay until this range kicks in. So that might be something we have to go back on, but I think that's a good start to what they would pay. And we could dive into that a little bit more after the call and let you know the best way to set that up.
Sounds great, Amy. We can schedule some time to talk about it, absolutely. Any other questions on the line here today? I'll give it a few more minutes. These have all been really, really great questions, and of course, we want to continue with the call if we continue with the questions, so that's awesome. Okay, we'll give it another moment. Okay, everyone. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It was a pleasure speaking with you again this week. Please continue to join us on the Ask the Expert calls. Next week, we have coming up the Hub, which is our franchisee engagement tool. So we'll be happy to talk to you about some great ideas that we have next week regarding the Hub. Thank you so much and have a great day.